Now, Star India has been slowly but steadily upping and broadening its game to ensure it is the go-to broadcaster when it comes to English and Hindi entertainment, sport and movies. The investments are large and unheard of, especially in sport. Pro-Kabbadi, which is Star's latest experiment, has actually surprised everyone by performing rather well. I caught up with the man who's been navigating this rather large ship, Uday Shankar, to make sense of all that's happening at Star India. Take it away. Thank you so much for joining us, Uday. Truly a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Thank you.
So, really, you're a man who surprises many. And really, my reference to context here is Kabaddi. I believe it's your personal punt. And, you know, I don't think any Indian would have ever envisaged Kabaddi becoming a sport, what we see today as is televised, glamorous. You have, you know, big stars rooting and, you know, grand amount of promotion. And the ratings also, the story is pretty encouraging. Tell me the story of how you thought of Kabaddi, you know, this rustic Indian game, and how did you sell it to James Murdoch, and how did you, you know, do what you've done today?
It also tells you how well Star understands the mindset of this country. That a sport that was not considered a serious sport. It was something that everybody thought was for poor people, those who didn't have access to cricket, tennis, football, badminton. They just went and played those poor villagers kind of thing.
Sure.
They played Kabaddi. But we understood that a large number of people, Kabaddi had a constituency where people played, but there was very high level of familiarity. And we understood that the game had intrinsic strengths. So when we got into sports, we thought that, you know, we couldn't be just doing cricket broadcast. Cricket is great and very big and very successful. Everybody is passionate about it, but you needed to go beyond one sport. So we were looking for it, and in that process, we thought that Kabaddi had the Indian rootedness, the deep connect, and the sport itself had enormous potential. What it lacked was presentation, its articulation, its, you know, a language of Kabaddi that could be understood, that could be used to communicate it, and that could be used to understand it, and gave it a position of serious sport.
Sure.
We got it.
You know, it's interesting. So while I definitely see a lot of push coming from you personally as the CEO of Star and Star as an organization that, you know, in terms of actually developing sport in this country, so not only Kabaddi, soon we'll see, you know, soccer take off. You also invested heavily in badminton. My point is, while that's great, we're also such a one-sport-centric, obsessive nation. And the fact is, while this is a game of a long haul, so, I mean, clearly you must be in your investment phase. But for advertisers, to actually see value in what you're doing, at least in the initial years, seems unlikely, right? Because they're so obsessive in terms of returns as well that they'd only look at cricket.
Totally. And so it, you know, so should be the case, because the advertiser is fundamentally not interested in the sport. The advertiser is interested in the viewership that the sport delivers. So as long as they are not convinced that this sport will go and deliver viewership, they would not come on board. So same thing happened with Kabaddi. We were very clear internally that if we went to sell Kabaddi to any advertiser, sure, you know, we would look like fools. Absolutely. And our sales teams would get laughed at. But we were very convinced that there was potential in Kabaddi. However, the advertisers do not buy potential, they buy reality.
Sure.
So we said, okay, so we shall wait until the potential is delivered. And we don't only have a promise, we have something tangible. So that's why we decided that we will not, you know, we didn't even attempt to sell sponsorship in Kabaddi. We decided to sponsor it ourselves, which basically meant no money. Absolutely. We didn't sell any advertising inventory on Kabaddi.
Uday, you know, so in terms of development of sport, you've actually, you're developing Kabaddi, you're developing badminton, and, you know, with your partnership with Reliance, you'll soon be, launching your soccer league, and you're developing that as well. The whole point is there's a lot of money that you've put aside in terms of this whole investment phase to get that critical mass for other sport apart from cricket. My point is, how long is your waiting game before you actually see this reap returns?
The big monies that we have set aside are for sports as a whole. Look, we see ourselves as sports broadcasters. Right. With due respect to all the other sports broadcasters in India so far, everybody has been a cricket broadcaster. There has not been a sports broadcaster. Because what did anybody broadcast? It was cricket in one form or the other. That was one thing that I was very clear about, that we would like to be a sports broadcaster and not be limited to a cricket broadcaster. That's why we didn't even, we had one channel called Star Cricket, and we dissolved that channel and created another sports channel, because we didn't want to have just, cricket will always be big. If that's the national passion, it would be stupid for us not to be very big on cricket, and that's why we are, we are overweight on cricket rights. But the big monies are also on cricket. Cricket rights are really expensive. Absolutely. So both from a creative point of view, if you wanted people to watch sports channels on a regular basis, you could not just offer them cricket, because when the cricket tournament got over, then the channel would have to be put to bed, and then again to be woken up only when the next tournament came up, and hence going to other sports was only logical. In terms of spending the money, yes, we are spending a lot of money on soccer, we are spending a lot of money on Kabaddi, on hockey. But compared to the kind of monies it takes to broadcast cricket and the risks involved there, these are still small sums of money. So the big risk in this country in broadcasting is in cricket, not in other sports. Because cricket is where the cost of acquisition is very, very high. And if a test match gets over one day too early, then you lose a few $1 million.
Fair enough. But, still to come back to my point, how long is going to be your investment phase? 20,000 crores on sport development broadly?
20,000 crores, yes, is a commitment over a period of time.
Yes.
And most of that sits on cricket.
Right, fair enough.
A disproportionate sum sits on cricket. We know it's no different from, our investment in sports is no different from setting up any other business, where you will, there is an investment phase, and then there is a break even, and then you will start making money. Sure. That's what we see. So we see ourselves in an investment phase for at least 3 to 5 years.
So am I accurate when I say that, come 2020, Star will start reaping the returns of what it is actually, developing
I
now?
hope so.
Is that the window you've given yourself?
That, that would be a very comfortable window. Obviously, our goal would be to start getting some returns well before that, in the next 3 years or so. But yes, definitely. Beyond that, it becomes unsustainable.
Thank you so much for giving us time.
Thanks, Sonali. Always a pleasure talking to you.